Hey everybody, welcome back to the Friday Night Prepper Pre-Party Show. I hope you guys are having a good Friday. I think this one's gonna be kind of short, but we'll see. Sometimes we get off on these little tangent discussions and just never know where things are gonna go. But I want to let you know that I appreciate you. Been looking forward to the live stream all week long. Let me know in the comments if my audio is coming through 5x5. If there's any problems, I'll try to correct it before we get too far. Let me go ahead and say hi to the chat real quick, and then we'll get this ball rolling. I saw Scott in here first. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, Scott. I appreciate you. Prepper for the ages. Hope you're doing well. Sassy Gal Prepping. Hope you're doing well, my friend. It's always good to see you. Lazarus Long. It's good to see you, my friend. How are you doing tonight? Coffee first, then speak. Howdy to you. And let's see, Bacon, how are you doing? This segment sponsored by the Undocumented Food Cards of American Guild. Hope you're doing good tonight, Bacon. It's good to see you. 5x5. Thank you, GG's Garden. I appreciate you. And Cat Brown, thank you so much. Hope you all are having a great Friday night. Thank you for joining me. You got Kathy Williams, thanks for joining. Real quick, you guys know the rules here: no racism, no sexism. Be kind to the moderators. If you have anything you want to disagree on, that's fine. Just try to articulate your point and make your argument. You know, it's so much more effective when you can make your argument. I've had many people change my mind on things that I've brought up on the channel because they were able to articulate themselves well. When a person resorts to insulting and things like that, it's a sign of like you really just don't know how to argue and debate, and you should learn how to do that. So we welcome debate here. We welcome disagreements. If you have something that you disagree with me, let me know. All right, let's get it rolling here. Tonight we're going to talk about the incident at El Paso this week, where El Paso airspace was closed for a short period of time. Let me pull up my notes here. And all right, let's get into the facts. The FAA temporarily closed El Paso airspace, and I think this was, what was this, Tuesday or Wednesday? I woke up to this news and it was like, uh-oh, what's going on? You know, that prepper mind that we've got here. Of course, you're going to start thinking about, like, are we under attack, or what's going on? Is this a sleeper cell incident? Did we have a crash? You know, that was kind of what my first thoughts are on this were. Flights were grounded while authorities investigated a drone threat, or what was believed to be a drone threat. Initial federal posts blamed cartel-operated drones. Now, this is very interesting. I'm wondering if, like, the response that they got to this, that there was maybe some kind of intel that had come in before this, that they thought there was going to be a drone attack, because the response was pretty big. But we'll dig into this a little bit more, and maybe this is just kind of standard protocol, although it seems a little bit over the top. Later reporting showed that the Pentagon may have been testing an anti-drone system that complicated the situation. Okay, there's some truth to that part of this. We're going to get into this a little bit as well. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments if what your initial thoughts were when you saw this the other day, if you caught it early in the morning before the full story came out. The UFO sites on YouTube were going crazy with conspiracy theories that the U.S. had downed another UFO, you know, one of those fancy orbs or tic tacs. We've talked about those many, many times on this channel. I don't know what they are. I can only tell you my opinion, which is that I think they're classified U.S. tech. That it's literally our aircraft. I'm not saying it's manned aircraft, because some of the flight speed that's talked about here, it's questionable if a human could even do that. So my belief is it's unmanned U.S. aircraft. It's classified, so classified that, like, our F-22 pilots many of them wouldn't even know what this was, and if they saw it, they would think, of course, that it was a UFO, which is unidentified flying object, or UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. Or even like space aliens or interdimensional beings or something like that. But I always try to, and I'm open to those concepts. I'm not saying like that those things don't exist. I don't know. What I'm saying is that I try to apply Occam's razor, right? The most, when you're looking at a situation, the most likely answer is usually the truth. Okay, so for me, my personal belief is that when we see like these orbs and tic tacs and the gimbal and all these things that have been leaked out, that this is, in my personal opinion, this is U.S. craft that has not been declassified. It's very, very secretive. It's probably Lockheed Martin because they seem to have some of the top technology for aerial craft. Although there's other potential players in this, Northrop Grumman, potentially Boeing, even potentially. But that's what I think it is. So, but the UFO sites were going crazy with these conspiracy theories about like, hey, we downed some more space aliens. It's got to be those grays, those Zeta Reticuli, you know. And again, I'm not honestly not trying to make fun of those things, because I would like to believe that there are space aliens or interdimensional beings. I just haven't seen anything convincing to me yet. I've seen a lot of interesting stuff, but nothing that I could say that is 100% a craft flown by a space alien. I hope that we have something like that happens someday. I think it'd be really, really cool and a little bit scary, but really, really cool. Other sources were claiming that the government was testing anti-laser technology. What do I mean by this? So we all know that laser pointers, when pointed at an aircraft, can blind the pilot, right? This is kind of common knowledge at this point. It hits the cockpit window and it creates this like blinding light effect that can actually disrupt pilots. So there was some claims out there that maybe the U.S. was testing a way to counter that. And that was one of the other stories. So there was conflicting statements from agencies also that added to the confusion, even official channels and mainstream media, which is supposed to, you know, usually when people say, well, social media rushes out and puts this information out there without checking the facts. Yeah, we do that sometimes, but also mainstream media does this too. I was watching CNN and they were putting out information that later turned out to be not true because everybody's rushing to put out the information first, right? And also adding to this confusion was that the agencies themselves, and I'm talking about the Pentagon, Border Patrol, and FAA, seemed to have some kind of communication issue there where not everybody was communicating on the same page. And the narrative that was getting out to the media was different versions of the story. And then the media took it and put it out to the public. And then, of course, you had people on the ground, just ordinary civilians, taking pictures and things like that, which immediately went to social media, adding to the confusion even more. Let's pause there. I want to go back to chat and see what y'all are saying. All right, cool. Let's scroll back up. Hope you guys are doing good. Thank you, everybody who just joined in. I appreciate you so much. It's always fun to come on here on Friday nights and chat with the community. And this one here is a little bit more fun than some of the stuff we've been doing lately. I thought maybe it was Guthrie. Yes. Thank you, Diane, for saying that. Savannah Guthrie's mom. That was one of the other versions of the story that was out, was that, and I think I heard that on CNN actually, was that possibly this had to do with the search for Savannah Guthrie's mom. Hey, Laura, it's good to see you. Appreciate you. I hope you're having a good night. Like, didn't want suspect skipping out. Yep. Okay. Oh, that maybe they shut down the airport so he couldn't get out of town. The perpetrator. Yep. Roman Prepper. Yep. He's always a good source for information. I agree. Cartel drone attack. Okay. First thought was that they were trying to track down something with radiation signature. Let's see what Bacon's comment here. I'll put it up on the screen. First thought was what the Jose Ole man finally decided to see what happens when you add more than 239 beans to chili and unintentionally entered restricted airspace. NC Douglas, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining us. Okay, yeah. So that's an interesting comment there too, Bacon. So since I bought, you guys know I bought a drone before Christmas, and I've taken it out a couple times. I'm really not skilled with it yet. Like, I have footage, but it's really, really jerky. I don't even know if I want to like start sharing footage yet until I can like get a little bit better with this. But I'm learning a lot about like restricted airspace and things like that. And also, we have a jail not terribly far from us, which I know they have problems with. The people will fly drones over the jail. the exercise area and drop little packages of drugs and phones and all kinds of other stuff in there. So yeah, that's another issue too. CNN was being CNN. Exactly. Yep. Vanessa Kitty, how are you doing tonight? It's good to see you, my friend. Yeah, that was kind of what the CNN was saying, I think. I'm remembering, or at least that was one of the things that they were suggesting, like maybe it has something to do with this. Yeah, that story's been really sad. It's now, I think, like 13 days or whatever. It's really, really terrible. Like, when you think about like the worst possible things that could happen, be, one of your loved ones being taken captive like that. I mean, it's a horrible thought. My prayers go out to the whole family, and I hope she's still okay. And I hope that whoever did this is brought to justice. Of course, I pray for that. Nerdy Treasurer, how are you doing tonight? Happy Friday. It's good to see you. All right, scrolling, just catching up with y'all. Okay, cool. I'm all caught up. Let me go back to my notes. All right. Conflicting statements from the agencies created some confusion. That's why we saw a lot of different versions of the story on social media. At this point, the FAA says that, later on that day, FAA resumed flights. And there was no ongoing, and they said there was no ongoing danger to commercial travel. Yeah, we talked about some of these things. Early official and social media posts amplified the narrative. People didn't have the full information. Part of this is because we have 3 different agencies, 3 different entities were putting out information to different sources. We would think after what happened in 2001, in the fall of 2001, you can't even say that date without getting censored by YouTube. Ask me how I know. I've had 2 videos get nailed down because of that. So what happened in 2001 when we were attacked. You would think after that like the coordination between agencies about who's going to give the message to the public would have gotten better. You would have thought that the coordination between these agencies in terms of like what's actually going on would have gotten better. Border Patrol should know what the Pentagon is doing and saying. FAA should know what the Pentagon is doing and saying. Somehow we got a problem here, folks. This is why I'm talking about this, and there's other points here that I think are relevant to preppers. Otherwise, I wouldn't even cover this story. And the number one thing would be, if the big takeaway for us preppers would be coming at the end here when I explain some of the policy, why initially a 10-day airspace restriction was given, and the limited amount of information that's publicly accessible about like what defense systems were used here. And that actually should be somewhat comforting, I think, to all of us when I get to that. So urgent safety messaging, alarmist social media posts blurred the line between precautionary restrictions and confirmed attacks. The military had no role. There was misinformation that the military had no role, or that the military intentionally misled the FAA. I don't think it was an intentional. I think it was an incidental or accidental miscommunication between the Pentagon and the FAA. Interagency friction, and later reporting about the Pentagon testing of counter-drone systems created competing narratives that were picked up as definitive by commentators. Rushed public messaging, agencies posting quick updates to reassure the public before investigations were actually complete. Interagency coordination gaps. Why are we 25 years later still having interagency coordination gaps of this magnitude? That's concerning. Tests of new anti-drone systems by the Pentagon and the FAA's need to assess flight safety overlapped, and there was not clear public explanation. Social media amplification. Short posts and screenshots circulated faster than official clarifications, making early, incomplete claims seem definitive. The most reliable version of the truth so far, here it is. The FAA did close El Paso airspace as a safety precaution. Public statements initially emphasized cartel drone activity. Subsequent reporting indicates that the shutdown was likely tied to a Pentagon anti-drone test or related defense activity that had not been fully coordinated with the FAA, producing mixed messages about the cause. Officials later said the threat was neutralized and flights resumed. What threat? We're going to get to that. All right. Skipping over that. We already discussed it. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. FAA closed El Paso airspace as a precaution while authorities investigated an airborne object. True. Reports indicate anti-drone systems were used, and at least one object later looked like a party balloon, a Mylar balloon. Appears to be true. The assessment undercut early claims that cartel drones alone caused the shutdown. Anti-drone technology was used. True. What was used? Unconfirmed, but some reports are saying direct energy weapon, i.e. lasers. Some of you may not have been aware that, yes, the United States does have laser weapons. Literally like Star Wars, yes. But there's other anti-drone technology that could have been used. So unless they make an official statement that says a direct energy weapon was used, there are other possibilities. I think it was a direct energy weapon. That's just personal opinion based on all the stuff that I read and what boots on the ground, people in the area were saying. But they also could have used RF jamming, where they literally interrupt the signal between the controller and the drone. Okay, this is most police departments, if you live in a city or near a city, have this technology. Okay, it's not super advanced stuff. Probably every country in the world has this RF jamming technology at this point. Another possibility was a kinetic intercept, literally a projectile. That seems least likely, in my opinion, of what they would have done here. And fourth, anti-drone technology involves the use of nets. Okay, so of those four possibilities, the two that are most likely was direct energy weapon or RF jamming, based on the idea that it was at least one of these objects. If there was more than one, I don't know, was a Mylar balloon. RF jamming wouldn't have done anything. So yes, that leads us to default to, in my opinion, a direct energy weapon was probably used. Okay. Now, why Mylar balloons can cause some issues, let's come back to that in a second. Let me go back to your comments, see what y'all are saying. All right. Let's see. Savannah Guthrie is on one of those morning shows. My wife watches it. Sometimes I've watched it with her. She seems like a really good person. Like, she's not, I mean, whether she's left wing or right wing, I have no idea. That's what's actually kind of interesting and cool about her, is like, she just kind of covers stories and doesn't get like super opinionated on it, as media should be. As mainstream media should be, anyways. From everything you can tell, like, Savannah Guthrie seems to be a really nice person, and she's had her mom on the show numerous times. I don't know that has anything to do with why mom was taken. It could have been just random. It might not have anything to do with the fact that she was Savannah Guthrie's mom. Hey, Loretta. Pistol Packing Pilot, how you been, brother? It's good to see you. Yeah, this is a great stream for you to tune in on. Let me see. So Pistol Packing Pilot is a pilot. Let's see what he has to say here. I'm not sure how much of this I already missed, but the original called for ELP being closed for, El Paso Airport being closed for 10 days. Yes, it did. I'm going to get to why 10 days and why it was cut short at the very end of this, which actually I think is going to be very comforting for the community. Grit and Grace, good to see you. How are you doing? Yep. Interagency communication gap. Yeah, that was part of it, but actually there's a little bit more to like the 10-day restriction thing. Oh, yeah. Oh, GG's, you couldn't be more right there. When there's an emergency, isn't it interesting to watch like all these people that have to go to the podium for the press conference? They all want their 3 minutes in front of the television screen. Why don't you all just become influencers or content creators like myself if you like to have an audience and talk to a screen? It's just so interesting to me, like when there's an earthquake in the area, and all of a sudden you got 45 people have to be on this news conference about an earthquake, or a hurricane or whatever. Everybody's got to have their 30 seconds up on that podium. It's all about big ego. I don't need to hear from all the politicians after there's a hurricane in South Carolina. I want to hear from my emergency responders. I want to hear from the disaster readiness experts, and maybe the weather people. Uh, Pepperidge Farm. Did you guys see the story of the Mylar balloons exploding? Was that India or some other part of the world where and my wife and I were watching that. They weren't Mylar, I'm sorry. They were just like regular inflated balloons. And I said that shouldn't have happened because helium is not explosive like that. Hydrogen is. So why was this guy climbing in an elevator with like 30 or 40 balloons filled with something that was obviously very flammable and explosive, and we never did get the full story of that? Was it supposed to be some party pyrotechnics? That's probably the most likely response. Or was like that part of the country, maybe they don't have helium tanks, so they use hydrogen, although that seems extremely dangerous to me. Never heard the full story. If you guys know anything more about that story, put it in chat because I found that one kind of interesting. Yes, exactly. Triple P. Her mom, Loretta. Her mom's missing. All right, cool. I'm caught up on your things. Let's go ahead and back to my notes. All right, so Mylar. I have an interesting story about this one. Mylar does cause some sensor signatures overlap. It can cause problems for radar, electro optical, infrared balloons, infrared returns, especially from the reflective surfaces of a Mylar balloon, and it can make it resemble a drone or an unidentified object, especially at distance or clustered border environments. Now, funny personal story. Years ago, I was at a camping music festival in or near Louisville, Kentucky, and we were having a great old time. Good music, people were having fun, and somebody thought it would be cool to tie one of those like strobing lights things that you see at these raves onto a bunch of Mylar balloons and release it into the atmosphere. Okay, it did look pretty cool. About 20 minutes later, we had let's just say Men in Black, because I don't know what agency they were with, show up and demanding to speak to whoever was running the festival. And a few minutes after that, it looked like a pretty heated conversation. A few minutes later, that person, the person who was running the festival, had to come on stage and warn us, please do not do that again. It caused some kind of radar issue with one of the local airports, and if they had to come back out, they were shutting down the festival. So these Mylar balloons can cause some problems for our radar. Very, very interesting to know that. What makes that? Oh, so who makes that kind of direct energy weapon that we were talking about? Well, there's 4 companies that I know of that have the capabilities to do this. Lockheed Martin's name. Wow, they always seem to come up when we talk about this like advanced technology. Going back to the UFO thing, right? Which again, I told you my thoughts on this. There's always been rumors that Lockheed is in possession of Lockheed Skunk Works specifically, which is like one of their top secret divisions, is in possession of downed UFOs. Okay, that's always been one of the things in the UFO community. I'm not saying that that's what this was or that's where they got this technology. I'm just sharing some fun facts for you. But Lockheed does have the ability to does have laser weapons, direct energy weapons, specifically the Athena and the Helios systems. Okay. Raytheon is like probably the best experts in the world on direct energy weapons. I've talked about before, my uncle worked at Raytheon for his entire career. He's deceased now. He worked on the Patriot missile. Northrop Grumman is another military contractor, and they have direct energy weapons. And the last one that I know of, there might be others that I don't know of. Last one that I know of is General Atomics. They have something called the Hules system. So any one of these companies could have provided this technology to the Border Patrol. Why 10 days? Why was it shut down for 10 days? Well, administrative practice and flexibility really has to do with like it wasn't like this is a hard policy. It's more like they can shut down airspace for an extended period of time, and they're generally gonna, if something happens, they're gonna do it for as much time as they, plus a little bit of wiggle room that they're gonna need to investigate what's going on, right? So let me read you. The FAA often issues a notice to air missions. That's what Triple P was talking about before. A NOTAM for temporary flight restrictions with a multi-day end date so that the restriction remains in place while agencies investigate and coordinate a response. It does not mean that the FAA expected a confirmed 10-day attack or that they're even going to need 10 days. It's a, hey, we're not sure what's going on. Let's issue a 10-day ban. We can always back out of that. That's what it is. Okay. So it's not a fixed rule that if there's an attack, there's an automatic shutdown for 10 days. It's not a fixed rule that if there's incursion into our airspace, that it's an automatic shut. It's they have some flexibility with this. They happen to say we're shutting it down for 10 days initially because we need to investigate. And then once they determined like, hey, there's no threat here, they were able to lift that. Okay. So NOTAM durations are administrative choices. They're not threat forecasts. Okay, this is the part that I was saying that I think should give you some comfort, as well as knowing that we actually have weapons on the border that are capable of taking down drones. Although I don't think there was a drone involved with this. As far as I can tell, it was just Mylar balloons. If there was drones, there's nothing that I've confined that says, yes, there was definitely cartel drones also involved with this. It wasn't just Mylar balloons. Now, let's get into the thinking outside the box here in just a minute, because I think, thinking about like the Chinese spy balloon that flew over the entire country during Joe Biden's administration, and he just let it happen. That didn't need to happen. It could have been taken down. There was parts of the country that it was flying over where there was like nobody living, and it could have safely been taken down. Joe Biden chose not to do that. Why? I don't know. You'd have to ask him. But they definitely had the capability to do that. Okay. So these we do have the capability, which I find comforting and reassuring, to take down these drones. They have the flexibility to take safety steps for extended periods of time and lift those restrictions as soon as they determine that it's safe. I also find that comforting. Okay. It looked extreme, of course. Yes. A 10-day flight restriction in an area, if that actually had stayed, that's a pretty big deal. That's going to disrupt a lot of commerce, a lot of business, a lot of flight in and out of that area. It's going to cause some massive problems for the entire FAA, as flights would have to be rerouted from all over the place. So that would be a pretty big deal if they had to do that for 10 days. And as Triple P was saying, we haven't had anything like that in 25 years. So it reads like a pretty scary thing. Of course, that adds to the alarm when this hit the social media. I mean, that was my wife and I that morning. We were like, 10-day restriction. Like, what the heck is going on the border? They did lift the restriction later on that day. But what they haven't done is, and they should have done, is explain to the general public like what was going on in a very clear, cohesive one message from one agency. Probably should have been the FAA, I guess, and explain like why was it 10 days, why it was lifted, and that there's no reason for people to panic. No, this was not a UFO, although people are always going to like question that, right? No, this was not a cartel attack. And in fact, it was just a Mylar party balloon. Maybe they're embarrassed by that. Maybe that's why we're not getting like another press conference explaining this. I don't know. Here's what's really interesting. Since it's pretty much public knowledge, I'm not sharing anything here that's like top secret or anything like that. This is easily all searchable, right? You can go on your Google and search this information. I've known since that music festival that Mylar balloons are clearly a problem with our radar. What if cartel? What if this just wasn't some kid's party that had cut the string loose and let it fly? What if cartel was testing this? What if it was a probing attempt? Now we talked about what probing is, and there's red X attacks, and there's other names for these things. What if that's what this was? And then what if stage two was, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just like, this is what we do as preppers. We kind of think outside the box and think ahead and we prepare. What if stage two was, let's release 100 of these things and we're going to mix in some drones with it? Now we got a bit of chaos. I still feel good in our country's ability to handle this based on the technology that we have, but it's just interesting, right? Like, is there more to this story? Probably not. Occam's razor tells me probably not, but it does make you think, right? And as soon as I woke up and saw those headlines, brain starts spinning, right? Brain starts spinning. Like, what's going on? Is this a cartel attack? They've threatened to attack the United States not too long ago, actually. Maybe that's why this had such a big response, right? Maybe that was the intel, was just that, like, hey, we know they want to do something. Here we are. Something's coming over the border. Our radar can't get a good read on this thing. We need to activate our defenses, and we don't want our defenses to accidentally hit one of our commercial craft. Oh boy, would that be a problem. Now we have a real embarrassment for this country. So they shut down the airspace, and then we don't know how long this is going to happen. Let's start with 10 days. Okay. Then we get out there, we realize, oh gosh, guys, it was just a Mylar balloon. Lift the restrictions. But then there's no follow-up for the civilians to know, like, what the heck is going on. Okay. Of this, the most concerning thing to me is that we still have communication gaps and communication breakdown between 3 federal agencies. That should not happen. Okay. And this is not a knock against this administration or the previous administration. This is a knock against our whole system. 25 years ago, we got caught with our pants down. This should not be happening where we have this kind of a communication snafu. Okay. Hopefully people are learning from this. Hopefully there's something going on behind the scenes that we're never going to hear about, where this corrects some gaps that we had. All right. Let's check your chat one more time. Then I'm going to start to wind this one down. And I hope you all are having a good Valentine's Day weekend so far. And maybe you've got some plans for your husband or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend. Do something fun for yourselves. There you go. Yep. And maybe that was going to be the next step, Bacon, is that they would scramble jets. So just be an FO. Triple P says, of course, Lockheed has downed UFOs. How else would we reverse engine them so well? Again, I don't necessarily, I'm not like a disbeliever, but I'm also not a believer. I have said many, many times on my stream, I'm somebody who wants to believe, but I also want more definitive proof than, some F-22s pilot footage of a craft that's unidentifiable. Well, that doesn't mean anything. It's just a craft that's unidentifiable. It flies faster than your F-22. Yeah, that's really impressive. It still doesn't mean it comes from another planet. Yeah, it can do physics that shouldn't be possible. Well, if you had said that when I was growing up in the 1980s, if you had showed them like a very small civilian-owned drone like I have, if you had flown that in the 1980s, people would have said those maneuvers are not possible, right? And they would have been right at that time. Oh, man, it wouldn't be the first time that we have to worry about that, right? Hey, listen, if they didn't come after me after I did the one where I was talking about the New Jersey drones and that was most likely a government contractor and actually named who I thought probably was, they didn't come and knock on the door then, they're not going to knock on my door for this one. Yeah, and so there's definitely some interesting stuff that goes on in that part of the country. My brother lives in Arizona. He sent me some interesting footage. We don't know what it is. It moves unusual. It's really fast. It's only seen at odd hours of the day when there's like nothing else in the sky. I put one of those up as a short video a couple of years ago. If you want to go find it, Prepping with Sarge UFO. And that what you see in that what you see in that short video, he's seen that same kind of thing, whatever it is, a few times because he sent me other ones, and I'm like, it looks very similar to the other footage. Now I've looked at that, and I've looked at footage of the Virgin aircraft. Is that Richard Branson, his thing that can go into the upper orbit? And I've seen footage of his aircraft when it's launching into upper orbit, and it looks very similar to me. So I know that around the time that video that was sent to me, they were testing that aircraft a lot. So that's what I think it is, but I don't know. Okay. But there's definitely in that southwest region part of the country, there's a lot of interesting things in the sky. Let's just say it that way. There's a lot of interesting things in the sky here in South Carolina too. I live near an Air Force base. I've seen a few things that were really interesting. I've seen a drone that I don't know what the name of it is. I'd have to go looking for it again. But I found it. It wasn't anything that was classified or anything like that. But I don't know what they were doing. They were testing something out. I know that I was driving that day and my GPS was going haywire. So I don't know what they were doing. Some maybe scrambling signals or whatever. But and people near Myrtle Beach have seen numerous UFOs. Notice to airmen. Okay, thank you, Triple P. Marco, it's interesting. I mean, it's not the best footage. It's you can go check it out. It's a short video, like the vertical ones. And it's less than 60 seconds, and it prepping with Sarge, UFO, maybe Phoenix. It might be in the title too. Should come up. Triple P says, I respectfully disagree with your theory on the 10-day shutdown. Notems get revised on a whim all the time. It's very common practice. Well, you would know better than me. They did not shoot down the Chinese spy balloon after it finished its. After they did shoot it down. Yes, they shot it down actually not far from me, over Myrtle Beach. Not far from me. It was more than a Mylar balloon party, Sarge. Kids let them go all the time. I almost hit a big one at 35,000 feet. No radar signature. I mean, yeah, they could have been probing, right? Like that would be, if it wasn't a kid's party balloon and just like an accidental thing, then the next most logical thing was that the cartel was probing. Well, that's interesting. Marco says, not long ago, I noticed a balloon over Far East El Paso that apparently was a weather balloon that got loose from Arizona. Got a blast of weather soon after. So the strobe light one was attached. That was the music festival that I was at. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a strobe light. It was if you ever been to like a night event where they have the vendors that are selling all those like flashing things. Sometimes they're swords or necklaces and wands and things like that. It was like one of those things. And they attached it to a couple Mylar balloons and then launched it up. It was actually kind of cool, but then it was like apparently not cool to these men in black, whoever they were. They never tell the whole story. Yeah, they don't. That's true. Hey, Burpee Yoga Uncle. It's good to see you, my friend. Maybe the men in black did come after you already, but they'd flash. Yeah, true. If they had that little flash thing, I wouldn't remember it. That's true. The Aurora is. I saw what I believe was the Aurora, one of the Aurora craft, in Kentucky one morning. It was really early in the morning, and it has a very, very signature contrail, like the vapors that come out the back, where it looks like a series of O's, almost like if somebody's blowing cigar smoke rings. That's what it looks like. I saw that very early in the morning. That's one of the signatures of the Aurora craft. SR-72s, is that the triangle ones? So there's some people are saying that was used in the attack on Venezuela. And there's footage. You can go look at that. And it's hard to tell if it was the SR or something else. But it's definitely some really interesting footage. It's Speak the Truth showed a video of El Paso test. It was a drone. It was so. Okay, so Speak the Truth has a video that it was a drone that was shot down. Interesting. I'll have to go looking for that. Are you talking about Burpee Yoga Uncle? Are you talking about the cave? So there's somewhere in this country there's a cave where there's relics from giants. Is that what you're talking about? All right, folks, I am going to start to wind this one down. I want to say again, thank you everybody for joining me tonight. I really appreciate y'all. Hope y'all are having a good Friday. Tomorrow, of course, is Valentine's Day. Make sure you do something nice for your loved one. If you don't have somebody that you're married to or dating, do something nice for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like buy yourself a nice box of chocolates or take yourself on a nice dinner or whatever, right? It's important that you love yourself, right? Actually, I would say if you don't love yourself, it's going to be hard to have a healthy and successful relationship. And I say that now as somebody who's been practicing therapy for 28 years. Okay. So do something nice for yourself. You deserve it. All right. I hope you all have an awesome weekend. I appreciate you guys so much. Just checking. No, it wasn't the suburbs. I just want to check the last few comments here. Suburbs and Vegas where the people in the house were saying they're the 10-foot aliens. Yes. I know which story you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I think my personal opinion on that one was that it was a hoax. And yes, I saw the video with the shadow and everything. I know I followed that story for a little while. My personal opinion is that it was a hoax, but maybe not. Like, what do I know, right? All right, y'all, have a safe night. Appreciate you. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.